Similar to last week's video, in this week's video, we're gonna cover an exercise that you probably aren't doing, but should be doing if you want to greatly increase your overall appearance of muscularity, and that is the neck extension. Like with last week's neck curl video, we're gonna cover why you should be doing this exercise, the anatomy of this exercise, the setup, the execution, some common mistakes you'll want to avoid, and finally, some variations on this exercise. But before we get into the video, hi, my name is Ryan Treadaway, founder of TreadawayTraining.com, where we turn skinny guys into jacked men. If you want more information on body transforming training and nutrition topics every Sunday, consider subscribing. As a quick recap from last week's video, the neck muscles are an interesting muscle group. They're commonly trained by athletes who participate in combat sports or high contact sports such as football. However, they're ignored by pretty much everyone else, which is interesting because increasing the muscularity of your neck is one of the fastest ways to increase the appearance of overall muscularity. So if you're a bodybuilder or someone who just generally wants to look as muscular as possible, neck training can help you do exactly that. Just take a look at these pictures of Jeff Nippard. He's big and jacked in both pictures, but if you look at him from the shoulders up, you wouldn't even know he lifts in the left picture. And as an example I shared in last week's video, here are two screenshots I took of myself from previous YouTube videos. The picture on the left is before I started training my neck, and the picture on the right is 6 months after I started training my neck. There's a clear difference between how muscular I look in just 6 months of neck training. And I achieved this by only adding in 3 sets of neck curls, which is what we talked about last week, and 3 sets of neck extensions, which we're breaking down today. Now that you can see the importance of neck training, let's talk about the anatomy of this exercise. The posterior anatomy of the neck is significantly more complex than the anterior anatomy of the neck. And the largest posterior muscles by a large margin are the traps. The traps have several functions. The lower fibers of the trap perform scapular retraction and scapular depression. The middle fibers of the traps perform scapular retraction, and the upper fibers of the neck perform scapular elevation, neck extension, lateral flexion, and lateral rotation. Based on the fact that the traps, which are the largest muscle of the neck, perform scapular elevation, you might come to the conclusion that shrugs are all you need to train the back of your neck. However, you would be incorrect. A study from the University of Georgia split participants into 2 groups. One group performed a 3-day per week workout that included many trap-focused exercises such as rack pulls, bent over rows, and shrugs. The other group performed the same workout, except with 3 sets of neck extensions 3 times per week added in. The first group experienced 0 neck growth, while the second group experienced a 13% increase in cross-sectional area of the neck, which is a huge difference for only 12 weeks. In addition to the traps, there are several smaller muscles that can also be targeted by neck extensions, such as the semispinalis, splenius, and longissimus. Normally when doing these exercise tutorials, we don't talk about warm-ups. However, like with last week's video, since we are talking about the neck, we want to be sure that we're being as safe as possible. First, start off with 10 slow body weight neck extensions. Then move on to 10 lateral neck rotations. And you can also incorporate 10 neck circles at the beginning of this warm-up, but personally, I get dizzy fairly easily, so I don't incorporate these into my warm-up. Once you're nice and warmed up, it's time to set up for and perform the exercise. Place your weight on the ground at the end of the bench. Lay forward onto the bench so that the top of your shoulders are at the edge of the bench. You can cross your feet under the bench, but personally my height and bench length works out perfectly so that I can just hook my feet under the front of the bench pad. Place the weight on the back of your head. As a side note here, it's a great idea to wear a beanie or place some type of padding between the weight and your head so that the plate isn't just digging into the back of your head. Slowly lower your head forward and down until you're looking straight down at your toes, then extend your neck back and up until your neck is parallel with the floor. To be sure your neck is actually what's doing the work and that your arms aren't taking over, you can take a loose grip on the weight, or you can even pull the plate down against your head. Another mistake is to cheat your reps by allowing your back muscles to share the load. This can happen if you're using too much weight, if you're doing your reps too quickly, or if you didn't hook your feet into the bench. While the neck can handle significant loads, I would recommend starting with very light weight in the 15 to 20 rep range and slowly increase over time. Getting into a few variations of this exercise, you can of course do this exact same exercise using a dumbbell for load. If you have a head harness available or are willing to purchase a head harness, you can also do resistance band neck extensions, standing resistance band neck extensions, or my personal favorite, cable neck extensions. To set up for resistance band or cable neck extensions, connect the head harness to a resistance band or cable, lay forward onto the bench, place the harness on your head, and from there you'll execute the exercise the same as before. For standing resistance band neck extensions, put the head harness on with the band hanging in front of you. Grab the resistance band with both hands, then extend your neck back as with the lying variations. If you want to check out last week's neck curl tutorial, click here, or if you want to check out the exercise tutorial playlist, click here. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next week. In addition to the traps, onto the bench so that the top of your shoulders are at the edge of the bench.